We are off on our very first trip to the Okavango Delta to find that perfect piece of land to build a homestead on, with the idea to create a place to live, research and create, all through some kind of conservation model. This is episode 2, so if you want to find out what this crazy idea is all about, please go and watch episode 1. So after months of asking around and pretty much reaching out to every connection I had in the wild space and industry, I finally connected with an organization called Entrust. So that was that. We were super excited to head out there and see what they had to offer. But as it is, nothing is ever straightforward in Africa. Habu was still a 5-hour drive after landing in Maun, and with no current accommodation options. This was doable, but it was stretching my easily accessible criteria for the project. Fortunately, a new camp had opened nearby in a protected area where we were planning on staying. The only catch? It was only accessible by helicopter, and as it turned out, we'd need the chopper anyway to get to Habu and explore the potential area. So being a passion project of mine, I pretty much was willing to do anything to get something off the ground and get an idea for this project. So our adventure modes were activated, and yes, it did come with a little bit of a price tag, but it was one hell of a bucket list experience getting there. And I'll be honest, if you're ever after a truly authentic Delta experience, this is the one. Wild dogs hunting, lions roaring all night, and an unforgettable bushwalk. I've stayed at a lot of camps, but this was hands down the most real bush experience I've ever had, and the old school safari way of doing things. After settling in an amazing first afternoon, it was time to put the homestead making hat on, as the next day it was all happening. Now before we dive into the excitement of what unfolded, please chaps, go and hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our email newsletter, because for a project like this to work in the bigger picture, we're going to need all the help and support that we can get. Now let's head back to Beagle Expeditions as we make our journey over to Habu village. From the camp, we flew over to Habu, where the excitement was building with each second. We could see the village from afar as we flew in, and the nerves started to grow. On landing, we met with the community, shared the vision for the camp, and their excitement matched mine, which was a pretty good start. We then went on an amazing walk around the village, learning about everyday life, their farming systems, and most importantly, the human-wildlife conflict currently happening. Now, in our busy day-to-day lives filled with all the rubbish and negativity that we see on TV, this was a very refreshing experience. We were disconnected from internet and Wi-Fi pretty much this whole journey, and it was just so good to connect with what is actually happening in these wild areas and to see exactly the truth and organizations like Entrust are doing to protect it. So after a very enjoyable couple hours of being introduced to the village and their ways of doing things, it was then go time. We hopped back in the chopper and we took off in the northeasterly direction to this potential area. What we saw was absolutely breathtaking. It was just millions and millions of acres of pure wilderness. It was a drought year, so things were dry, and everywhere we looked, cattle and wildlife were competing for the same water holes. Elephants alongside cows, and sadly, plenty of carcasses. Some lost to drought, others to lions. It showed that this area was needing some kind of a new model to assist, where humans and wildlife can live alongside each other. Now you're probably wondering, is this not exactly what Entrust are doing? So Entrust are doing an unbelievable job. It's just the area is so vast, it's too big for such a few people and organizations to take on by themselves. Then in the distance, the chopper pilot said to me, there's our location where we're going to be landing, and my eyes lit up as it was almost like a mini oasis amongst this drought year. There were a couple green trees and a tiny little pool of water as we put the chopper down. When we finally landed at the spot the village had set aside for a camp, I stepped out and instantly spotted fresh lion and leopard tracks. That was the sign I needed that the area had potential. This place was alive with wild animals, yet still so close to families carrying on with their daily life. Now, as we landed in a pretty remote area, it's basically a GPS coordinate on a map. We landed there, we walked around, and it was then time to head back to Habu with our hearts full of lots of enthusiasm. When we got back to the village, I did want to give something back to them as a small thanks for having and hosting us. So coming from Jim Green Footwear, I had packed as many pairs of boots as I could to give to the guys to test out on their farms and for the anti-poaching that they're currently running. Then other than the people from Hubble being so accommodating and welcoming, before we left they actually handed me some leather that they had tanned right there in the village using all natural ingredients. Now when you see what goes into some of the leather we use today, all chemicals, and to see how it's done the old school way was simply amazing. So what we actually did is we took this leather back to our factory and we incorporated into a couple more pairs of boots that we managed to get back to the people of Hubble. So after some of the most enjoyable days of our lives, disconnecting from the real world, it was time to head home with a lot of serious thinking to do on if this area was going to be suitable for the project. After weeks of talking with Entrust and the local village of Hubble, reality set in. As much as I wanted the area to work for me, it was just simply too far away from Maun and not that easily accessible. My dream was one thing, but the practicalities and costs to set something up like this was another. I was quite disappointed, but deep down I knew that the Delta was the place for this project to work. Obviously, while I had been researching and finding out about Entrust on the western edge of the Delta, I had also come across a number of other places. So the search didn't quite end there. It was really just beginning. And in our next episode, what we decide to do is then head east of Maun. So make sure you're subscribed to our channel, like this video, and we'll see you on the next episode where we get that much closer to finding Old Dog's Pond.